I don't care about her race. I care about her
Then
competence.
why call her a ding-dong? Why call her a ding-dong?
Senator John Kennedy, Republican, of course, had an interesting tiff with Neil Cavuto on Fox News. Now, the topic of discussion was the Democratic presumptive nominee, Kamala Harris, of course, and Kennedy called her names. Apparently, Neil Cavuto, not a fan of that. So, without further ado, let's watch how this fight began.
That the burden on the vice president is to prove to the American people that she's a serious person. Margaret Thatcher didn't giggle. Golda Meir didn't giggle. When you look at the polls, fair or not, many Americans, and again, this may not be fair, but I'm just telling you what the polls show. Many Americans think that the vice president is a little bit of a ding-dong. That she's not serious.
Well, this ding-dong, Senator, has risen in the polls, and I'm wondering if the strategy to focus on her laugh or the former president calling her nasty and crazy really promotes that push to show she's not up to the job.
That is a weird line of attack. She giggles, so she's a ding-dong.
No, look, she has an awkward laugh that lasts too long, et cetera, et cetera. I get it, and I know Democrats will say, no, she doesn't, and they're being totally unfair. But guys, everybody has a different laugh. Okay, so the unfair part might be true, but to say, like I have two friends who have these outrageous laughs. I mean, you could hear it from 3 blocks away, right? It doesn't make them worse on policy.
No, it makes them total ding-dongs, okay? It depends, are they men?
Right, they are men.
Oh, never mind, they're not ding-dongs. Well, they can laugh awkwardly as much as they want.
I'm gonna come back to that. But at the same time, by the way, I wouldn't say of those guys, no, I don't say anything different about their laugh. No, they definitely have a different laugh. It's okay to acknowledge that and then say it doesn't have anything to do with policy. But now, most important, who cares about the laugh? Who cares about the laugh?
And when I'll tell you who cares about the laugh. Sorry to interrupt you, I'll tell you who cares about the laugh. Previously, I would have agreed with you about Kamala Harris's laugh being awkward, it lasts too long. It was especially true in the context where she would make weird statements where she sounded like she just took a Xanax pill. You know what I mean? And then like proceeded to like giggle at the statements that she just made. But now I'm realizing I was wrong, okay? First of all, the awkwardness in public speaking has gone away. She's a lot more confident and I'm so happy to see that. But Americans have been dealing with the toxicity of politics for years and years now. Super depressing, downer after downer. That lightness is actually appealing to voters.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. Look, I think that the laugh and everything else has a lot to do with her apparently significant issues with anxiety.
She has anxiety, yep.
Right, and so okay, but we're all human, guys. We're all human, right? So, but mainly the lightness has been a breath of fresh air. And I'm not saying that for us. I'm seeing it in the polling and what people are telling pollsters and focus groups, and it's a lot of independents and Democrats who weren't sure they were going to vote for Biden coming back around and going, man, finally someone who's younger, brighter, lighter in every way. So they're barking up the wrong tree in several different ways. But the main point is, look, guys, what Kennedy's saying is so absurd about, oh, Margaret Thatcher didn't giggle. Seriously, okay, look. You see us have super serious conversations. You've seen both of us in very serious debates. You've seen us kick ass in those debates. You've seen us get enraged and yell, and at least me, okay, and Anna from time to time, etc. You see our range of emotions, but do we also laugh and giggle? Of course, because we're human. Which weirdo doesn't ever giggle? I don't want to vote for that guy. That guy's got serial killer issues.
I mean, how could you not giggle after watching Senator Kennedy's campaign ad where he's attacking defund the police and then urges people who are victimized by crime to call a crackhead? Like, how do you not giggle at that?
I mean, for 100 things, Bart, you got them lined up?
This was my ass.
That's kind of nasty.
Okay, so that first part was Kennedy in a Senate hearing.
Yeah.
This was my ass.
This was my ass.
How are we not supposed to giggle at that, brother?
Yeah. Okay, so look, many Republicans rightly have noticed that these attacks on Kamala Harris are not only failing to help Donald Trump, but seem to be hurting Donald Trump and the Republicans overall. And so they're discouraging the kind of attacks that we're hearing from Kennedy during this interview. And Neil Cavuto himself voiced his concerns over these types of attacks against Kamala Harris. But apparently, Senator Kennedy is undeterred. Let's watch.
Well, what I was going to say, Neil, if I could finish my thought, when you look at the polls, fair or not, what the polls, the crosstabs show, is that those Americans who have an opinion of the vice president think that, number one, she's a bit of a ding-dong, and number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party.
Okay, so that went on for a while, okay? And at one point, Kennedy got irritated with Cavuto for allegedly trying to put harsh words in his mouth. Let's take a look.
Uh-oh.
I guess all I'm saying, for all the problems and calling her a loon and all that, and I get it. I know it's political season and that happens on both sides. Do you
Well, I didn't call her a loon, Neil. You're putting words in my mouth. I said she's a member. She's a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party, and there is a loon wing of the Democratic Party.
What's the difference between the loon wing and being a loon?
The vice president is a candidate for president of the United States. I don't care about her gender, Neil. Maybe you do, but I don't. I don't care about her race. I care about her
Then
competence.
why call her a ding-dong?
And I'm telling you what the polling shows. I'm telling you what the polling shows. And it does, and I'll be glad to sit down with you and walk you through the polls.
Please do, because I never know when it's constructed to call people names.
Oh my God, that was my favorite part of this exchange. Number of different reasons. Okay, first, I didn't call her a loon. I said she's a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. You're calling her a loon. That means you're calling her a loon. Okay. But then, no, my absolute favorite part is where Neil Cavuto is just very obviously irritated, but is kind of giving up. And he's just like, then why call her a ding dong? Why call her a ding dong? It was so good.
Because what Neil Cavuto is saying, remember, Neil Cavuto is very right wing. He's a corporate Republican, right? And so what he's saying is when you call her a ding dong, it makes people think that it's about gender or maybe race. And it offends those people, and you might say you don't care, but it's gonna cost you votes.
Exactly.
That's why we're asking you about the polling. We're not asking you what's your opinion. Obviously you don't agree with her, but when you call her these things, do you think it helps or hurts the party? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, that's my ass. But it is, and you're showing it.
Yeah, 100%. And look, smart people can draw that distinction, right? You can draw the distinction of, Neil Cavuto being in the bag for Kamala Harris, which he isn't, or Neil Cavuto understanding strategically the name calling is backfiring on Republicans. But Kennedy pretends like he doesn't understand that distinction, and so take a look at how he handles the pushback from Cavuto.
I'm sorry that hurts your feelings, but let me say it again.
Senator, you keep bringing it back to my feelings. My feelings matter a little. All I'm telling you is if you think you can gain this November calling people names, I don't know how far that goes, left or right, but we'll see. It's still early, to your point.
Your feelings seem to me like they matter to you a lot, Neil, and I'm trying to be objective here. Let me say it again.
Are you really being objective, Senator? I just think you've got a bash-a-thon, a name calling at her. If you call that being objective, I don't know. But Senator, I do want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Neil. I hope you have a better day.
That was amazing. That was
amazing. I don't know if Kennedy's on something, man. Those faces, the facial expressions, etc., that he's got.
I don't think he expected to get the kind of response from Cavuto that he did get.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And Cavuto is right. Cavuto's worried about how, Trump.
Cavuto's worried about losing the election.
Yeah, exactly. But like Kennedy's not realizing that, and he thinks, no, but this is the way that we've attacked Democrats in the past, typically men, but things are a little different when you're using the same tactics against a female presumptive nominee.
Now, let me tell you something funny about John Kennedy. He's not dumb. He's actually he's a bright guy with a really interesting past. And until recently, he didn't used to do any of these antics. Now he's the one most known for saying outrageous things in Senate hearings and interviews, etc. But for a long time, he was more sober-minded. He switched when he realized you could raise more money from grassroots Republicans when you say outrageous things.
Didn't he also, look, I don't really like making fun of accents, right? But didn't he, the reason why I do it with him is because isn't it like made up? Like he didn't have that accent before.
No, I don't know about that.
Not to that extent. He's like really yucking it up. That's what I'm trying to say.
I have no comment on that. I don't remember his accent from before.
I could be wrong, but I remember
he's
something
leaning into his loon wing, right? He thinks for a while, like he questioned a Trump appointee to the bench because they had no competence and no professional experience that merited that position, and he got his ass handed to him by Republican grassroots and the base. And then after that, he turned all the way around. He did a 180. And all of a sudden, he was like, oh yeah, the Democrats are crazy loons, had the ass, penis, groomer. Like just every kind of nonsense, talking point, outrageous things to say.
Yeah.
And he's been leaning into that ever since.
Yeah, and he went to Oxford. Like you're right, to Cenk's point. He's not some dummy, but he plays up this character, right? This cartoon.
That's actually, you're so right, Anna. And that if I was a Republican or MAGA or any of these guys, I'd be so offended that at what your politicians think of you, right? So Nikki Haley does this all the time too. They just assume that their right-wing voter is not that bright, is a little bit racist, etc. And then they take those assumptions and they lean all the way into them, right? And I think it speaks very poorly of how they view their own voters. The way John Kennedy seemed to have lowered his own IQ by about 40, 50 points to appeal to what he thinks is his base is pretty insulting, if you ask me.
Definitely. Now,
and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. This was my ass.
That's kind of nasty.
That's again from the Senate hearing where he was reading from a book that he felt should be taken off the shelves in school libraries. Okay, now with that all said, how many times was the words ding dong uttered during the short interview that took place on Fox News? Well, why don't we take a look and find out?
Many Americans think that the vice president is a little bit of a ding dong.
Well, this ding dong, Senator, has risen in the polls.
Those Americans who have an opinion of the vice president think that number one, she's a bit of a ding dong. The American people think, those who have an opinion of the vice president think that number one, she's a little bit of a ding dong. Let me say it again. The polling that I've seen shows that many Americans think that the vice president is not a serious person. As I said, that she's a bit of a ding dong.
You know, she is called nasty and crazy and a ding dong and all. And
I care about her.
Then why call her a ding dong? Then why call her a ding dong?
That is amazing that he proceeded to use ding dong over and over again as Neil Cavuto was trying to get him to stop calling her ding dong.
I think in total they use it 9 times.
8 times.
8 times? Okay, wow. Well, you drilled that point home. Let's see if it helps you or hurts you. My guess is that Cavuto's right, it's gonna hurt you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.